So this has been like going on.
I
There's a lot
know,
of times on that.
buyer's default.
Defaults and things like that on that. People are
Default
not
has
about
become the
that.
default word.
Oh my God.
For
I think we're live. Hey
Oh, wait.
everyone.
Okay.
By default.
Hi, everyone. Bob
This is
here.
Yusuf, Bob, and we got our own lawyer, Khalid Arshad,
That's
who has
right.
been working with IQI Global Real Estate Canada and helping a lot of our clients and our realtors as well. So today's topic is something which we were just discussing right now. It's about buyer's default. What we are seeing in the market is that when the buyers are not able to close their properties, it could be due to a mortgage, or it could be a situation where they are dealing with a builder on a new construction. Again, a lot of things happen at that point in time. We would like to hear from you, Khalid. What are the implications when a buyer is not able to close a property? And please give us both the aspects on the resale side of it and also
the builder
house.
side again.
That's right.
So I mean, Yusuf, before I say anything, it's very important for people to know, just as we always say it, whatever is being said here, this is the legal disclaimer. It's not legal advice. This is just legal information being given through the auspices of IQI, and please do not take anything that we talk about to be actual legal advice. Please consult your own lawyer, and in case you're finding any trouble insofar as default is concerned, I'm a litigation lawyer. You can get in touch with me, and I'll sort out your problems. I'll try to sort out your problems. So again, Yusuf, a default basically means that a buyer is not in a position to close, right? And it could be because perhaps the buyer didn't have the money to begin with, or the buyer's mortgage didn't come through, or perhaps the appraisal by the bank was not there, and they would only give him less amount of money and not the entire thing. So these are things that basically is what a default is. And if there is a default, that means whatever deposit has been given, the seller forfeits it. If the seller is trying to sell the property and sells the property at a lower price, then he sues you for the remainder, for the difference.
Right.
Even if the seller is selling at a higher price in the APS, he still sues you for his costs associated with the carriage of the property. If the seller has paid additional mortgage from the date of the sale of the property, from the date of the actual sale to the date of the botched sale, they can sue you for the legal expenses, realty expenses, mortgage expenses. So it's basically at the seller's discretion what all they want to do, right? So from the buyer's perspective, number one, you get almost instantly, instantly, you've lost your deposit, right? It's with the brokerage, and that brokerage, because there's no mutual release, the guy can actually keep it.
Right.
Of course, there is a certain bit of legality there that he will, before forfeiting it, he has to go to court, get the order from the court. But this 200K that I had in my account, I'm keeping it.
Right.
And then he also sues the party for ABC amount, right? That let's say $1 million property, 200K given us down, and the property doesn't get sold. The property eventually gets sold for 900,000. So 100 is the difference. So the 200 goes, the seller sues you for 100 plus whatever extra costs are there, right? It takes its own sweet time, but you have to go through all this trouble.
Right.
So that's from the buyer's side, right? And you have to see a lawyer, and the entire thing happens.
So just to add, Khalid, now even when a buyer has this default, just from a legal perspective, from the brokerage perspective, the money is in a trust account or a lawyer's trust account. It does not get released unless there is a mutual agreement which is being signed between the buyer and the seller. Is that correct as well?
Yes, absolutely.
On that, and you have to hold on to that money till they come to the agreement altogether.
So what happens, Yusuf, is that in law, just because money is being retained in, let's say, the lawyer's trust account or the realtor's trust account, yes, the agreement of purchase may say in the event of a botched deal or a closing not happening, this money is earned by us, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be paid to you. So parties have to go to court, and they say that such and such thing happened. This is a 200K lying in my lawyer's trust account, or the $50,000 or $60,000, whatever deposit was paid to the realty brokerage. I have earned this. Therefore, please pass the order that I can forfeit the entire amount. Many times what also happens is that, I mean, if I was to take an example, if you are holding funds in your trust account that was given to you as a deposit,
Yeah.
and if the deal doesn't close, right, there is no mutual release, can you simply transfer the money to the lawyer, to your client?
We can't.
What do you tell them? You tell
We
them,
just
get a
hold
quote.
on to it.
You hold on to it.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yep. We
Right?
can't. We can't.
And
do that.
I, as the time, like, Yusuf, can I have my 100? Yusuf will say, I can't.
You got to still go to your legal
You
aspects.
got to go
come
to
up
your
with a mutual release
lawyer.
and do that.
He'll come to me. I'll go to court. I've earned it, but I need to have the court's, approval over it. The court's imprimatur
Right.
that yes, this happened. You take your money.
Yeah.
So it actually becomes a problem not only for lawyers but mostly for you guys, because you're keeping the money. It's not earning any
Yeah.
interest or
Yeah.
whatever, and you can't release it.
Yeah.
That's true.
So now this is more. It sounds like we're talking about the resale a little more on the side of the seller and buyer situation. What if it's like a pre-construction situation, dealing with the developer as a seller, right, and then the buyer is in default situation? Is it the rules, regulations seems a little bit different or similar?
I mean, legally speaking, the process is the same,
It's the same.
right? You pay, let's say, an amount of 20% over the period of 6 months, 8 months, whatever, right? The builder gets that property and the money, and you don't close, right? And or maybe you don't have the funds again, like all those things. So the builder does the same thing. He will, of course, also keep the money, and will inevitably 99% the builders always sue for the remainder, or because at that point of time the builder may or may not have been able to sell. Right? Many times what also happens is that even before the closing date, and this happens in both resale and in builder properties, before the closing date, the buyer tells the builder or the seller, you know what, I don't think I'll be able to close.
Yeah.
I don't have the money, or whatever reasons. So that is also deemed as an anticipatory breach. That I know that you're not going to buy, you're not going to purchase, so I don't have to wait till the closing day.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
I can treat the breach as of today, let's say a month before, that because you've told me you can't close, because you've told me you don't want to close, I am treating this as an anticipatory breach
Okay.
and
Interesting.
terminating the agreement.
Nice. Okay.
Right?
All right.
So, and then again the same thing happens. At that point of time, the builder has not sold yet. So the builder could actually sue you for the entire amount.
Oh.
So if you paid him
Got it.
200, he could sue you for $1 million, or sorry, for $800,000, and whatever extra cost may be there.
Wow.
If at that point of time the builder has sold it to somebody at a loss or at a gain, the builder will sue you again for his costs. So it remains the same. But what is very important is, and this is where you guys come into the picture more than the lawyer.
Yeah.
If a guy comes to me and tells me that, you know what, I have defaulted and I'm filing the lawsuit, I'm defending the lawsuit, I'll try and buy them as much time so as to enable them to get back onto the bus of trying to close the property.
Oh.
Because an agreement, if it has been terminated, it can always be revived. What does the builder want? He wants to be ultimately in a position to sell.
Right.
What does the seller wants? He wants that person to buy. So when you go back
Yep.
with an offer and say, you know what, now I can purchase, it depends on the parties if they want to buy.
Okay.
So I just want to add that what you just also, Khalid, I think that's the reason it's very important when you're dealing with the agents and when the market is really hot.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to just jump into the properties without actually doing some valuations, some appraisals, and that's where we bring in some of our mortgage partners as well, who could actually pre-qualify you, 2 years, 3 years down the line, and they do an upfront appraisal and things like that. I think that's also very, very important what Khalid is saying, because if the property price at that point in time was $1 million, just because everybody else was buying it at that point in time, when the banks look at the appraisal, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit on the bank side for our viewers to know, now the valuation of the property is coming, for example, $900,000 on that, right? There's still $100,000 shortage on that property. Apart from that being on the default side of it on that, you don't have the appraisal value, you're not able to complete that transaction as well on that, right? So again, you got to be careful on that. So question to you, Khalid. If that scenario happens, where you have a commitment of $1 million on the property, the appraisal comes out to be $900,000 on that. Although we understand that the contract was made to be for $1 million on that, is there anything a buyer could maybe put in a request to the builders to negotiate the price or do something about it? I don't know. It's just like I know it's always
You know what,
conversation that happens, right?
It's always open to have that conversation with the builder, because the builder also knows what's happening, right?
Yeah.
If the builder is aware that the property has actually fallen, then the builder will of course try to ensure that the closing happens.
That's right.
So if I'm that builder, I would want to accept your point, and we could have that negotiation. That could happen again through the realtor or through the lawyer, whosoever, right? Usually lawyers are not coming into the picture at that point of time.
Yeah.
So it's dependent on the realtors or let's say the mortgage brokers to initiate that dialogue.
Right.
And if the builder doesn't play ball, and he wants to create more pressure, then of course that's what they do.
Yeah.
But the options are always open. In fact, the option is even open after the default.
Okay.
It's also open during the legal proceedings. And even if the builder wins, you can still strike a deal with that person. Everything depends on how good or efficient or otherwise your lawyer is.
Okay. So I think that's really good information here. So actually, a lot of the buyers which we have heard of in 2025, they all having projects coming soon that need to close. Seems like a lot of people are actually panicking because the value of the property now it's dropping a little bit in certain areas, and obviously they're not. A lot of people are thinking to let go of whatever the investment is. So now that we have been talking about this situation, would you rather have, since we probably have not enough time for today to tear, because there's just going to be tons of so as a lawyer, if our audience, one of the who's following us, are being in the same situation right now, are being panicked about the property coming soon that about to close, would you have some good ideas or suggestions or advice at this point to give them some ideas? Generally, you may be able to do certain things or come to us to do anything that in your mind. Give us
Again, I mean,
3 points.
It's difficult, but then the point is that I always advise my clients, Bob, that try to close the property come what may.
Okay.
Right? There's a certain amount of money you've already paid, right? That money is of course going to go down the drain and you'll have to fight.
Yes.
It's very difficult. The courts are not very pro buyers who default. So money is actually down the drain.
Yeah.
So if you think that you could recoup that money, it's a very difficult task.
Right.
So my advice always is to people, and in fact even to those who are perhaps going to buy properties in 2025, beg, borrow and steal. Make sure that you don't default on the property. Try to close the property. And if you think there could be a problem, in fact, the builder also knows. It all depends on how prudent the builder is or how prudent the seller is. If you could kickstart a conversation now, so that person also has his money, you also don't lose your money, and you could have a deal. You could make a house together, right? Rather than going through pitched battles, because everybody will lose money.
Yes.
Except the lawyer.
Yeah.
I'll make my money, right? But then again, I'll tell you very simply, my advice is very straightforward. If you have entered into a contract to buy a house, by all means try to try to finish it. Otherwise, it's a slippery slope.
That's right.
It's a slippery slope, and it's going to be difficult. And you never know how things could be in the future.
And that's where our expertise come in on that. We always advise our clients that do not buy a property just for flipping it. You should be able to close your property. If you are not in a position to close your property, please do not invest. You will be surprised, Khalid, at how many times clients come to us, they give us the situation, and we tell them upfront, no, please do not buy this property. Because your main motive is that because nobody has a crystal ball, right?
Yes.
What's going to happen after 2 years down the line? We don't know.
That's right.
So again, we as real estate experts, we want to make sure that people are getting the right advice. So we don't want to be a salesperson. We are their advisors.
That's right. And don't never stretch yourself too much,
Yes,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
I've seen people using line of credit to put in a down payment. That's just
you lose everything. So that's the reason. I mean, the moment realtors and lawyers sit together, there's so much that can happen.
That's right.
Right, and we try to do whatever we can to help our clients. And yeah, I think that's about it for defaults,
Very
right?
well said.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Khalid. Again, always a pleasure having you over here. I mean, thank you, Bob.
That's
It's
right.
just been really great.
And for the people actually in front of the screen, you know that we are doing this IQI Canada legal speak channels. So stay tuned and follow us, and we will bring you more and more very great information about the law situation here. So, and if you do have questions, please do reach us. And if you are the buyer looking at this video and you have issues and you're potentially panicking about this, don't. Let's talk. Let's just grab a chance to talk to Khalid, talk to us, and see if we can help out with the situation here. Okay. All right.
Take
Thanks
care.
again,
Thank you so much,
gentlemen.
guys. Take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.
So see you guys next.